Hey, Alex here, returning for episode number 3 of Sports the Nemo Way. Our first 2 episodes covered Kawhi Leonard and James Worthy, but now we return to have myself, Alex, make a case for Pau Gasol being a top 50 player of all time, and more precisely, number 45 overall on my list. But before I start my case for Pau, as usual, let's go over his career a little bit first. The 7-foot, 250-pound power forward played his career for the Memphis Grizzlies, the Los Angeles Lakers, the Chicago Bulls, San Antonio Spurs, and Milwaukee Bucks. He won 2 NBA championships with the Los Angeles Lakers. He's never won an MVP. He's a 6-time All-Star, 4-time All-NBA, and was Rookie of the Year. He was taken number 3 in the draft and has played 18 seasons so far. He has yet to retire, although he's not on a team currently. His career averages are 17, 9, and 3 on 50% shooting from the floor. Well, this is normally where I would turn it over to one of my co-hosts to make their case for Pau, but the case will be made by me. You guys ready for this?
Sure.
Alright. Just a little cool things here for you. Pau Gasol was the first non-American player to win Rookie of the Year in the NBA. He was also the first Spaniard to make an all-star team in the NBA. To be honest with you guys, he was a trailblazer. he was clearing the way. He was making all-star games even before Dirk. I'm just saying. After being the number 1 option on a bad Grizzlies team for years, where he did, turn it around and make playoffs a couple times, he even bounced in the first round. But he was traded to the Lakers to play second fiddle to Kobe Bryant, who is notoriously hard to get along with. But Pau fit in immediately with Kobe, and they made 3 straight finals appearances, winning 2 of them. And before that, the Lakers are struggling to make the playoffs with Kobe, even with Kobe there. So, Pau Gasol making a huge difference there, guys. Another impressive thing about Gasol's career is he completely reinvented himself later in his career as a Spur. He started shooting threes, which he had previously been resistant to. When the Lakers asked him to do it late in his career, he flatly refused to shoot threes so that Dwight Howard could roam the paint. But then he gets to San Antonio, and in 16-17 season, he shot 53% from three-point land on 104 attempts. Reinvention, guys. I know what you're thinking. He only made 6 All-Star games and 4 All-NBAs in his career, which isn't overly impressive. But think about this. Not only did he play in the league at the same time as Duncan, Garnett, and Dirk, he played in the same conference as Duncan, Garnett, and Dirk for almost the entirety of his career. And although I do believe Gasol belongs on this list, he's not as good as Duncan, Garnett, and Dirk, who I have all 3 in my top 5 power forwards. Drew, you're shaking your head. Is that was that?
Nothing, just nothing.
I was going to say, was that a controversial take that Duncan is a great power forward?
Oh, God. Let's not go there.
To continue my take before I was rudely interrupted. In points all time, Pau Gasol is 43rd all time, but 7th among power forwards. He's 29th all time in rebounds, 12th all time among power forwards. He's 23rd all time in blocks, 4th amongst power forwards. He's 127th all time in assists, which is rare for a big man to be on the assist list, which is 5th all time among power forwards. So in 3 of those 4 stats right there, he's top 10 among power forwards, and just outside on rebounds. Now I'm going to ask you guys some questions to get you thinking a little bit. Dennis Rodman made 3 of your all's lists, but Pau Gasol made none of your all's lists. So, are you saying that 4 extra rebounds a game and a little bit better defense is worth losing 10 points a game, 2 assists, and a rim protector?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you're nuts.
Dennis
No,
Rodman
I don't
was
think so.
Not second fiddle. He was third or fourth.
That's a fair assessment, Drew. Thank you for the backup. Now let's talk about Anthony Davis, who made 3 of y'all's lists. Again, 3, but not the same 3. Anthony Davis has played 8 injury-prone seasons in today's current NBA. He does have some big stat numbers. I'm not going to take that away from him. But has he really done enough at this point in his career to elevate him above somebody like Pau Gasol, who, I mean, was a second fiddle on 2 championship teams, but Anthony Davis was second fiddle on 1?
One so far. You gotta give him a little time.
Right, so far.
He could get 3 or 4 more.
He could.
We don't know.
Right.
He also already has more All-Star games,
Same amount of All-NBA.
as the
more all-defensive teams,
we just went over this.
more block championships.
7 more points.
Like,
And about twice
A
in
lot
okay.
less time.
Okay. In the weaker NBA, where he is literally like the only legit big man in the was the only legit big man in the league for years. So All-Star appearances, although do show you something, can be very indicative of what the league is doing at the moment. That's my opening case, but I just want to make you all think of those last couple comments. Somebody got something to say to me?
Well, you guys already know that I'm a Laker fan, so of course I like Pau Gasol. But I know Pau's has done some nice things over the years, but I just didn't feel like the points, the rebounds, and especially when you're looking at a power forward, and what he was supposed to be doing, I felt the other guys that I had on my list ahead of him definitely were better there. I had C. Webb and Anthony Davis. I'm one of the Anthony Davis guys ahead of him. Both out-rebounded him. Both outscored him significantly, which is why I knocked him down. He has done some nice things. I just didn't think it was enough.
Fair enough. I liked C. Webb in his day, but he was a choke artist and could never win, although he was a number 1 instead of a number 2. So I'll give you that. And again, that's another guy whose career got cut short by an injury.
I mean, Pau, I kind of have a similar stance on Pau as I did Worthy with Ray. I don't really have a problem with him being on anybody's list. I mean, he was a good player for a long time. I think that's probably the best thing going for him is longevity. But I don't really think of him as a great player. He was good. I mean, he was a good player for a long period of time.
Well, to speak to that, in 06-07, he averaged 20 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 blocks on 53% shooting.
Mhm.
In 09-10, 18 points, 11 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 block shots. In 14-15, 18 points, 11 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 block shots. Remarkably consistent. I mean, that
what I said.
spans quite a few years there.
That's what I just said.
I know. I was backing you up.
I just think like peak Pau Gasol was kind of just a little underwhelming. Like, I don't know if underwhelming is the right word I want to use. He was just a good player, consistently good for a long. Yeah, like you're not going to point to like a 5-year span where you can say, oh wow, he was the best player at his position or like the second best player at his position. He's going to give you 18 to 20 points, 8-9 rebounds for a long period of time, which is good. Nothing bad to say about it. But I just think peak value, I think you can point to a lot of players that were a little better. Actually, I found it interesting, which I know a lot about this other person, but I compared him and Elton Brand before Elton Brand tore his Achilles.
Wade is an Elton Brand fan.
Oh, yes. Big time. I mean, yeah. I have Elton Brand Clipper jersey, Bull jersey, 76ers jersey. I love Elton Brand. Not as a GM, though. But and they were actually really similar, and no one ever thinks that Elton Brand is an all-time great player. I mean, that's just, yeah.
No,
Um,
I
but-
agree. I think
Before we go ahead.
I was gonna say I think Elton Brand's underrated. I don't think he's on this list, but I think he's
No.
underrated. But we could go back to what separates the two of them is longevity, because again, that's another guy whose career got hampered by
Yeah.
an Achilles injury.
Just like the worst injury you can get. He just got when he was like, in his low 30s, and he's a big man, so it's hard to come back from. But before it tore his Achilles, they had really, really similar stats. But Brand usually had a few more points per game. He got double-digit rebounds consistently, which Pau didn't do. He edged him in blocks. The field percentage was pretty similar. Pau shot a little more from outside than Brand did. But Brand usually, their assists were pretty close, too. I think Pau beat him a couple of times, but it was close.
Powell's a very good, talented passing big man.
He was really smart. But my main point is Elton Brand, obviously I love Elton Brand, so I think he was awesome. But they were very similar, but pretty much the biggest difference between Elton Brand and Pau Gasol is one played with Kobe and Phil Jackson and Ron Artest, and one played with Corey Maggette and Chris Kaman. So, I don't know.
That's fair. I guess my big thing was at first was he was the number one on a bad team, a la Elton Brand.
Yeah.
And then he seamlessly changed in the course of a season. Like he was traded over there, and they immediately went to the finals with somebody who was hard to get along with, somebody that was a ball hog, and Kobe Bryant. And Pau was like, "Hey man, I'm here. I'm going to come in. I'm going to give you, I don't know what he averaged that season, but 18 and 10, and we're going to go to the championship." They did lose that first year, but then they immediately came back and won 2 in a row.
I'm not taking anything away from Pau. He was a great fit in the triangle offense, actually. He did really well in that. But pretty much my point with the Elton Brand comparison is if he doesn't play with Kobe, a top 10 player of all time probably, do we remember Pau as more than just a good European player? I don't know.
Does Pau get his title without playing with Kobe?
That's kind of my point. Probably depends on where he ends up. But
if he continues to play in Memphis the rest of his career,
No.
probably not.
yeah,
I will agree with you on his versatility. He did adapt well because Kobe was hard to play with.
oh yeah,
And early on in his career, Pau was kind of soft. When he first came to LA,
he was.
he was soft. And he had to get it quite a bit tougher for them to win the titles.
I think Kobe got helped a lot with that. You can't be soft with Kobe.
No. That wouldn't work.
Eat you alive.
Obviously, we've heard a lot about this recently due to Kobe's passing. They did a couple specials on there, and they literally talked about how the entire offseason after they lost to Boston in the finals, Kobe just blatantly mistreated Pau. Was just mean to him.
No, that's Kobe for you.
Yeah. It is what it is. But I'm saying, and then at the end of it, he's like, "Bro, this is who you are gonna have to turn into if you want to win championships." And Powell stepped up to the plate. I don't think he was ever turned into Kobe, as far as being a jerk. But or on the court, I guess. But he toughened up because KG manhandled him that first finals appearance.
Oh, yeah, he did. They really pushed him around. But he, like you said, I will give you credit. He did adapt.
And then he adapted again late in his career when he lost some of his movement things and became a nice spot-up shooter from deep. I think there's something to be said for adjusting multiple times in your career to become different players. We give credit to Kobe and MJ. I'm not saying it's them, but for once they started losing athleticism, they became turnaround jump shooters and worked on their footwork. Powell essentially did that twice.
Yeah.
He went from being the man to the second fiddle to a spot-up shooter, but a good spot-up shooter. He really adjusted to his game to fit who he was and where he was and to be successful. Because, he was still making the playoffs with those first teams.
Yeah. This is just pure curiosity. Did you put Rodman on your list? I haven't looked yet.
No, Rodman is not on my list.
Let's see.
Nobody really had anything to say about that, by the way.
Well, I was curious because I think Rodman is obviously he was not good on offense. That wasn't what he did. But I think Rodman was extremely valuable. He's questionably the greatest defender ever.
Oh,
rebounder.
Okay. I'll say this:
almost 20 rebounds a game in his prime.
My case was not to say Rodman was awful.
Yeah.
My case was to say that I think overall Powell was better than Dennis Rodman. Although I did say Rodman was a better defender, although not Not that Powell was a bad defender.
No.
But Powell also brought something on the defensive end that Rodman didn't in rim protection. Powell's always been a good shot blocker.
I mean, part of your argument is that Powell adapted well in order to win, which is true. He did. But, I mean, obviously Rodman did too. He won 5 championships. So, I mean, it was pretty easy to win with Dennis Rodman too. When he was shutting down the other team's best player and getting you 20 rebounds, that's pretty adaptable.
Yeah, I also think some of Dennis's exploits are exaggerated because he was on one of the greatest teams ever, if not the greatest team ever.
Yeah.
You can go back and look at those finals against the Jazz. He wasn't shutting Karl Malone down. Karl Malone was giving him 36.
I mean, that was at the last year.
Was giving him 40 instead.
Yeah, that was at his last year in the NBA almost, if you don't count the 6 games or whatever with the Lakers for that next year. But
I mean, and he was a bench player when he won his first 2 titles.
37-year-old Dennis Rodman we're talking about. But yeah. Oh, well, yeah, he was a bench player, but he was also an extremely important part of their team. He was their best defender.
Again, yes,
he won Defensive Player of the Year.
He was their best defender. I'm just saying, it's a legit question. You're talking about 10 points, 2 assists, and rim protection over 4 rebounds. That's really the difference. 4 rebounds.
Oh, yeah. But, I mean, prime Dennis Rodman's going to double his rebounds.
Okay, I don't want to give away too much of my anti-Dennis Rodman argument here, but during the peak of his career when he was averaging 18 rebounds a game, that's all he was doing.
Yeah.
He refused to play defense so that he could rebound. And he was sabotaging his team so that he could rebound because he wanted to up his rebounding stats.
I mean, he wasn't sabotaging too much. He was still winning. I mean, I feel like he was still...
No, they weren't.
Which Dennis Rodman are we talking about here?
Peak rebound Dennis Rodman was with the Spurs.
He was only there for like a year or 2.
And that was when he had his big rebound season.
I mean, he averaged... It was more than just the 2 years.
I mean, I don't have his stats right in front of me, but that was his biggest rebound season. And that was the same year where he refused to play in the playoffs and like sat on the bench with his shoes off, and just they had to trade him for nothing because he was such a cancer to their team.
I mean, he was crazy. We all know that. There's no saying he was a normal human being. I'm not going to argue that point. Dennis Rodman was nuts. But I mean, I think there's an extreme, pretty much in my opinion, with Dennis Rodman. We can argue about his rebounding all day, but I mean, he put up crazy rebounding stats, and in his prime. I mean, even Larry Bird says that that's the toughest person that ever guarded him. So I think being able to shut down the best players in the NBA is remarkable and extremely valuable, in my opinion.
I think it is super valuable. I think Rodman's a clear Hall of Famer. I'm not saying he's not. He's a bad player. I'm just saying I just thought Powell was better. But yeah. I guess I asked you this. Do you think Dennis Rodman was taking 10 points a game away from the player he was guarding every night?
Oh, I really don't know. I'd have to look it up. I don't know. There was a stat, though. I gotta make sure I get the right players in here. Where he held, Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, and Magic Johnson, all below their season average on their way to a championship in points per game.
I heard that as well. You're right.
And he also guarded a big man in the series too for a while and shut them down and held them below their average.
His career numbers against Shaq are actually pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Especially for somebody that's like 6'6", 220.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not that caught up on the whole Rodman Pau Gasol comparison. I just thought it was an interesting person to compare him to. I thought they were kind of 2 opposite players, just different styles.
Well, I was just looking at guys that made the end of year All's list.
Yeah, I understand.
List and just kind of poking at him a little bit. Again, I wasn't trying to make this an anti-Rodman thing. I think he's a Hall of Famer. I think he's on one of the greatest teams ever. I just thought, and I don't want to make this a Rodman podcast either. I also poked at Anthony Davis, and again, I don't dislike Anthony Davis, although I like him a lot less now that he plays for the Lakers and LeBron. And I do mean that he plays for LeBron, not necessarily the Lakers. But my thing with Anthony Davis is longevity and the weakness of today's NBA. If you're injury prone in today's NBA, what are you going to be in a physical NBA? Although, I mean, again, somebody else talked about earlier. We were talking about longevity, and I
mean that's Powell's strong point. His longevity is pretty much.
But until the last couple of years, Powell's been very durable as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like he's missed seasons in there. He's been he plays. I mean, he's missed games obviously, but not huge chunks, or whole seasons.
Yeah.
Drew, you've been quiet as a Lakers fan. I thought you had something to say about this.
Give me a minute. I got something coming.
Oh, you got something coming. Okay.
I will say, though, you're obviously going to win the longevity argument with Gasol and Davis, obviously, because Davis is, like 27 years old still. I mean, he's still going. But, as far as peak value, Anthony Davis is better than Pau Gasol. Anthony Davis is putting up crazy numbers. So, I'll give him the end. He does miss time. Like, you can't argue that. But he usually still is going to get you 65 to 75 games. I mean, for the most part.
But really, what we're looking at, is if Anthony Davis died in a car crash today, God forbid that happened. I'm not saying I want that to happen. You're saying his career is better than Pau Gasol's.
Right now?
Yes, because the rest of his career is not guaranteed.
Oh, I mean, that's
We're
true.
saying right now he has already a better career than Pau Gasol's. I just don't agree with that.
He has accomplished more in certain ways.
He has more All-Star games. And
obviously, Pau's going to have the longevity stuff like career points, career rebounds. I mean, that's just logical with playing 20 years and one plays 8. But in certain ways, Anthony Davis has accomplished more.
Hey, wait. Were you telling me the other day that all that matters is championships?
I don't remember, maybe.
Wasn't that your Kawhi Leonard argument?
Kawhi Leonard's also accomplished more than Pau Gasol, by the way.
Well, they play different positions, so...
So we can go that route. I can bring it up.
No, I'm just saying, your argument was championships. You said it over and over again. I'd say a stat, and you say it doesn't matter championship.
No, the point was that Kawhi Leonard's done something that a lot of people on the list haven't, which has been the best player on a championship team, which Pau Gasol has not done.
Yes, you're right.
And your argument just kept being, oh, well, his career points are at 200 and something. Well, yeah, no shit. He's played like 7 years. But, I mean, he's still accomplished more than players that played 20 years. That was my point. Not just championships.
Still debatable.
I can say like 5 things that he's done that Pau Gasol hasn't, but it's fine. We don't need to make this a Kawhi Leonard argument.
Kawhi is over.
I didn't bring it up.
I was just using your own logic against you.
Oh, it's fine. I mean, we can go here if you want to go there. I mean,
their titles are only 1 apart. It's 2-1. It's not like Pau has 5 and Anthony Davis only has 1.
All-time greats go their whole careers without winning titles. 1 title is significant.
Yeah, I mean, it's just scenarios also play a part in it. I mean, I don't know. Not everyone plays in the same situation with the same players, the same coaches, and all that.
Very much so. You said you had something for me, Drew. What's up?
Okay, well, Anthony Davis has played 8 seasons, correct?
Yeah, 8 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, hasn't Pau played like 18, 19?
18 seasons, yeah.
Well, then, yeah, Anthony Davis has got the same All-NBA, 1 more All-Star game, so the only thing Pau really got is he's played longer than Anthony Davis.
Anthony Davis makes the majority of his All-Star appearances at the center position. He cries about it. He literally does. He cries because I don't want to play center. It's too physical. Which in today's NBA is a joke. But
That's true.
Until Embiid and Jokic burst onto the scene the last couple of years, who did he have to compete against to get a center spot in the All-Star game?
Nobody.
I mean, DeMarcus Cousins, but that's still only 2.
And they played on the same team.
And like 4 of them make the All-Star team every year.
Yeah, I had to stop and think. Over the past 8 years.
I mean, the last handful of 5-6 years, Dwight's been washed.
I say Dwight hasn't really.
And I love Dwight. I love Dwight,
Yeah.
but I mean, he's not been good since he left Orlando, really, except for maybe a year in Houston.
I'll look it up
But
at centers.
But what do you even consider a center anymore? Because all the 7-footers anymore stand at the 3-point line and do crossovers.
That's true.
Yeah.
This is. I knew we'd get here eventually. I mean, discussing today's NBA is a tricky subject.
Well, Dwight Howard played point guard yesterday for the 76ers, so
That's true. I actually saw a bunch of memes about it.
And kind of a thing with if you're going to call Anthony Davis soft, which at times he probably has been. But I mean, Uncle Doug pointed out that Pau Gasol was soft for the first half of his career too.
He was.
Which is kind of the same situation. Kobe's kind of molded him into being tougher, and I think LeBron is kind of helping Davis with the same process, telling him, "Well, you're going to play center if we need you to, and if your knee hurts, you're not going to sit out 4 games. You're going to go play anyway."
And
so it's kind of the same thing.
I do want to point this out. We're in the beginning right now during this recording of the 2021 season. At the end of this season, this conversation could be very different due to the fact the Lakers are the heavy, heavy favorites. We're likely looking at Anthony Davis having 2 titles at the end of this season. Although I will say Anthony Davis has been hurt every year of his career except last year. Maybe he turned a corner. I don't know. Or maybe that was an outlier and he's going to get hurt again, and that'll hurt the Lakers' chances to win the title.
Well, and maybe part of this, again, this goes to the more modern NBA. Maybe some of these injuries are his way of load management, because a lot of players are doing the load management. And
It's true.
years ago in the 80s, early 90s, they wouldn't set out for much of anything. But now they got any kind of little injury, the coach says, "Oh, we've got an injury here. Let's give him a couple days rest."
It's true.
They do that a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, how many superstars play back-to-backs right
Very few.
now? If any.
Yeah. Like James Harden's the only one that comes to mind.
Right, James Harden, as much as I dislike watching him play, has been remarkably durable and plays all the time.
And is constantly has the ball and is
Yes, the wear and
active.
tear on James Harden's body has got to be ridiculous comparative
And he plays.
to guys like LeBron and AD and Kyrie and KD, guys that load manage all the time. Kawhi, that load manage all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think I was watching Warriors Clippers the other night, and it was the first back-to-back for Kawhi this season.
Yeah. He said something about.
And I'm not just picking on Kawhi. I mean, they all do it.
Oh, yeah.
LeBron and AD are doing it too, in my opinion, this season, because they just finished the playoffs and
I think
they're rested.
I think the Spurs with Popovich started the load manage situation. Remember, Popovich ended up getting in trouble for it because he sent Duncan, Parker, and Ginobili all on a televised game, and they got fined.
Right.
But I think LeBron saw that and was like, man, these guys are winning championships, and they're resting all the time. And LeBron started doing it. And LeBron took it to a new level, really. He was like taking like 2 weeks off every January and like going home and being with his family in the middle of the season while everybody's still playing basketball. It was really bizarre. I think everybody was up in arms about it for a couple of years.
Well, I think we have to go back to Dennis Rodman because I think he started that parade back when he was taking vacations in Vegas.
I think so.
Well, I
At
think-
least got MJ's okay before
Approval.
he took off.
He just stayed too long.
He did stay like
We
an
saw
extra
that on The Last
24
Dance.
hours.
A little time with Carmen Electra and then back to basketball.
Yeah. I go hang out with
That's a
Carmel
fair
Electra
point,
too.
but my point to that is, are you really giving your body a break if you're doing drugs and drinking the whole time?
Well, you got to remember it's Rodman. His body's a little different than everybody else's.
They said in
I
The
think
Last
his
Dance.
metabolism is something totally different.
Well, I loved it in the Last Dance when they're like, he comes back from 2 weeks in Vegas on a bender, and they go to do sprints, and he beats everybody.
Yeah, that's just a freak of nature. Like, yeah.
Not too many guys can do some of the things he did.
That's crazy.
All right, guys. Well, I hate to change the subject, but just one quick thing: the Browns are beating the Steelers 28-0 with 1 minute to go in the first quarter.
What? In
Yeah.
the first quarter?
Yeah, they're
How did you
slaughtering
score
them.
28 points in the first
I don't
quarter?
know. My mom sent me a text message. I was really surprised that she was even watching the football game, but I just wanted to shout that out.
Yeah, my wife is a Steelers fan, and she's already texting me mad.
Oh,
Sorry, guys. I know that's football, but I felt like we should have said
I'm all right
that.
with it. That was stunning news. Stunning news. All right, well, you guys want to start with our closing statements on Gasol?
Sure.
Who wants to go first?
Yeah, I'll go ahead.
All right, go ahead, Reno.
So, no, I had to go back and look at tape after you said something about you had Paul Gasol on your list. I'm like, okay, I remember Paul Gasol, so I went back and looked at tape, and I might have put him on my list if I didn't already have my 10 on me, but I didn't. But yeah, I agree with you. He's a phenomenal athlete. He's good, but he just wasn't physical enough. I think if he was a little bit more physical, he might have made my list. Like I've got Oakley, I've got Rodman, I've got Sean Kemp,
I see a theme here.
Yeah,
but
guys that'll beat you up.
that's right. But if Paul Gasol was a little bit more physical, then he would have made my list. But I'm not down on Paul at all. He's a good player.
I mean, yeah, I'm just kind of piggyback on what Ray said. I don't really have a problem with him being on your list. I mean, he's a really good player. He won a couple of championships. He was second fiddle on the championship team, which is impressive. I mean, I kind of similar stance with James Worthy. Like, both names popped up in my head. I thought about it. I just had a few players that I like more, but I have nothing really bad to say about Pau Gasol. He's a really good player.
Yeah, I agree with both those guys. Again, being a Lakers fan, we all like Pau, but he just didn't measure up to some of the guys on the bottom of our list. And some of these first guys we're talking about, that's really where the comparison's coming. We're looking at the last guys on our list. And there's going to be just a few, going to value this a little more than that. And Pau just didn't quite make it for me.
Everyone has their preferences. It's just really, what you like.
I would say, as a younger Lakers fan, Pau and Kobe were my first championship teams, and I love Pau Gasol, but I have no problem with him being on your list. He just barely didn't make mine. I love Pau and everything.
Well, I'll tell you, Drew. I do have him lower than Bob Pettit on my list.
That's right.
I just think Pau made the decision for me finally to put him on my list. Like I said, he's 45th on my list out of 50. He's not like he's way up there for me. He's my 9th ranked power forward. It was 2 championships. Again, not the best player on a championship team, but he has 2 championships, and he was a key cog on those championship teams. Plus, out of power forwards, he's 7th in points, 4th in blocks, 5th in assists, 12th in rebounds. He has the stats to go with the championships. That's what was the final call for me, and that's why he's included on my list. But you guys had some good points. That he was a little soft for a while, and he was never the best player on the championship team. I can't make that case. But I think that's it for Pau, and I guess we will move on to our next segment, trivia. Anybody got a trivia question they want to go with first?
Yep, I do.
Oh, Drew. Let's go, buddy.
Who was the first NBA MVP?
Oh, wow. Silence on the radio, guys. Right, look at us. Drew dumbfounded us.
Right.
Wow.
I'm just going to guess here and go with George Mikan.
That was going to be my guess as well, George Mikan.
First name that popped in my head, I don't know.
Right?
Can you repeat the question?
Who was the first NBA MVP?
Dun, dun, dun. Ray's looking very stoic here with his Power Rangers t-shirt.
So we got 3 George Mikans right now.
Yeah, 3 George Mikans.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with the NA.
All right, what you got, Drew?
Bob Pettit.
Well,
That's funny.
when did they start giving MVP?
1956.
Oh, so
Well,
56.
The 55-56 season.
See, I didn't know
Okay.
the answer to that. I didn't know when the first one was given, but I knew Mikan was playing when they merged the leagues and became the NBA.
Right.
So I didn't
Right.
know. All right, anybody else want to go next?
Yeah, I'll go.
Okay.
Who has taken the most free throws in a game? I didn't say made, but took the most.
Will Chamberlain.
I was actually going to say Will, too.
Will Chamberlain. That was probably part of his under-point game.
Yeah, I think he shot 30-something that night.
Let's try Westbrook. I'll throw Westbrook in there.
Dwight Howard.
No.
He shot 39 free throws.
What?
During the Haka thing.
Oh,
What?
my
Hack it to
goodness.
If I was going to guess Will, I was going to guess like James Harden.
Oh, man, I feel bad now. Anybody else ready to go? No? Me? All right. Who was the first European to win Rookie of the Year?
Pau Gasol.
Pau Gasol.
Pau Gasol.
Tony Kukoc.
You're not gonna guess Sean Kim.
I don't think he's European.
The correct answer is.
Pau Gasol.
Didn't you say that?
You said I said at the beginning of my rant.
Yeah. All right, I'll keep the trivia here going. Does anyone remember who actually drafted Pau Gasol?
I would say Memphis Grizzlies.
Okay, anybody else?
Oh man, I should know this since I just researched the guy. I'm gonna go with Memphis just because that's where he played, but I don't know.
Drew, Ray, any guesses?
I'm thinking. I want to go with the Grizzlies, but at the same time, I feel like it's not.
You'll find out soon.
Yeah, let's say the Grizzlies.
You going Grizzlies, Drew?
Yeah, I would just go with Grizzlies. Everybody else.
It was the Atlanta Hawks.
Ooh.
Drafted Pau Gasol.
Whoa.
Not
Didn't know that.
All right, so now we're down to Ray.
Well, let's run a spree one here. What player has the most assists in one game?
Scott Skiles.
Yeah, it's Scott Skiles.
Scott Skiles.
Giles.
There we go, yeah.
Orlando Magic. That's my favorite team. I don't think I've said that on the air yet, but that's
Yeah.
my
No, I
favorite
think I missed that episode, actually.
All right, so everybody got that. And
We
all
are.
right, now at the end of our third episode, trivia scores are as follows: Ray has 2, Alex and Doug have 5, and Drew and Wade have 7.
That's how it's
How the
done.
hell did Drew do this?
Because you don't know Bob Pettit.
Bob.
All right, everybody. We appreciate you listening. We appreciate you tuning in, and please tune in next week for our episode where Ray will be defending Grant Hill, one of my favorites, close to my heart. So it'll be a great episode, and please tune in next week. Thanks.